My guest is Rachel Aceso from an amazing company who just do amazing things. We're going to get all into the vitamins, the supplements, all of the stuff you do, Rachel. But for anyone who hasn't heard me interview you and chat to you before, um, just tell us a little bit about your personal story and how you kind of got interested in health and well-being before you set up Nature Provides. What happened back in the day?
Hi, Janie. Thanks for having me on again. So yeah, I went traveling after doing a number of different jobs, and decided I met somebody actually. I'd always had a keen interest in nutrition, met a nutritional therapist, and just instantly knew that that was something that I wanted to pursue. So started studying as soon as I came back from traveling, and was seeing clients, seeing them and wanting to give the best advice. Just feeling that all of the supplements that I came to recommend just fell short of what I wanted them to be. So they'd have fillers, binders, flow agents,
Mm.
preservatives, and just they just weren't in the most bioavailable form. So I set about creating my own range, and one that I can confidently stand by, one that I use myself and use on my children, some of them, and my family and friends. And that's how Nature Provides started.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there might be somebody listening to this, to this show who is kind of really quite new to all of this. They may have ditched the booze and be starting to feel a bit better and starting to realize, okay, I've got to eat better. I've got to think about my nutrition, and I'm going to really have to get onto this supplement thing. And it might be the first time that they've really thought about it. And I had a client who I asked her about her sort of supplements, and I think she said I take a liquid iron or something like that, and that was it. And you think, oh wow. Now,
Yeah.
let's just step back even a bit from that, because again, there'll be other people who say, look, I've got a really good diet, so why on earth should I need a shed load of supplements, if my diet is good? So just do the absolute 101 piece, why we
Yeah.
do need supplementation.
As a nutritional therapist, food definitely first.
Yeah,
You can't out supplement a bad diet,
yeah,
and
said right.
that's your absolute getting the foundation of a good balanced diet, nutrient dense is really key. Assuming you have that in place to the best of your ability, then supplements have a place, and the reason for this is because the soil is farmed on repeat. It's not rested enough, it's not replenished with the nutrients it's needed, and so the food is first of all lacking in nutrients. It then is shipped from one place to another, sits on a shelf,
Yeah.
sits in our fridge maybe for a little while until we get around to using it, and then we cook it, and finally we're eating it, and it's just far fewer nutrients than it should have.
Yeah. And,
That's
and
the
and that,
bit.
of course, is if you even start with something that has some nutrients to start with, whereas an awful lot of
Exactly.
our diet,
It's
is
not, it's
is
barely even food.
exactly, it's highly processed foods. I mean, I was looking at another piece the other day. I mean, I've done a lot around UPFs, of course, on this show and with the work that I do with the Sober Club. But I'm not perfect. And I remember buying, I think it was something like fish cakes.
Mhm.
Right, recently I thought, oh, that'll be quick, you know. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it's got cod in it, and it's got, some breadcrumbs, maybe an egg.
Yep.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not saying it's the worst thing ever. Of course it isn't. But actually, the reality is you've got a load of other chemical stuff in there that, depending on how much you eat, is gonna not going to be great for you. Now, the
Mm.
reality is most of us, every now and then we need a goddamn fish cake or whatever it is. We're not going to be able to be perfect and cook every single thing from scratch. But I think when people say my diet is exceptional, is it really?
I think what I always try to communicate to people is the 80/20 rule.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect either. I'd be lying if I said that my diet was impeccable 100% of the time. It's not. And I also see a value in food that's nourishment for the soul.
Yeah.
So, eating as well is time with the family. It's sharing a meal. And they do say that it's better to eat an unhealthy meal and be happy rather than eat a healthy meal and be unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot to do with really sitting and enjoying your food, savoring it, having gratitude for it, and
Mhm.
you know, um, just spending time with your family and eating and sharing.
Yeah.
But, I think if we aim for 80/20, we probably won't go too far wrong. And if
Yeah.
we aim for as much as possible whole foods, but, you're right, we don't always have time to cook. Children, work, just life is busy.
Yeah.
So batch cooking can be an amazing
Yeah.
thing to do, whether that's on a Sunday or whenever is best for you. Just cooking a big load of bolognese or a big load of soup, stews, whatever it is. You can batch make pate even and freeze it in little ramekins. Just pop one to defrost in the fridge overnight and have that with some sourdough and raw butter. And that's an incredibly nutrient dense meal. And
Mm.
these things, they don't have to be super complex. They just have to be good ingredients.
Yeah.
And, things like a tin of sardines,
Yeah.
incredibly
Absolutely. And mackerel. Yeah.
healthy,
Yeah.
especially with the bones in.
Mm.
Omega-3, calcium, vitamin D.
Yeah.
It's a quick and easy option. You can
Yeah.
just open the tin and eat it with some sourdough toast.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's food first, isn't it? And as you say, we
Mm,
can do that kind of 80-20 balance. But then within that, there are many of us who are lacking in certain nutrients, and often you don't discover this till it's almost becoming too late. And I think
mhm,
we might have had a conversation the last time we spoke. I forget if we did, but it was just around the whole necessity of taking vitamin D. Certainly, in my opinion, I think that everyone needs to take vitamin D, particularly in the winter in the UK. And I found that out the hard way because I was someone who always stayed out of the sun, literally kept myself covered up the whole time because I'm fair skinned. Ate no sort of red meat or anything
mhm,
back then. And then when I had my vitamin D levels checked completely accidentally, it was part of something else I was doing, actually for a journalistic thing I was doing, and they did a test for me, and it
mhm.
flagged up that my vitamin D levels were at 12. I
Oh,
mean, 12. It's a wonder I wasn't dead.
very low, very, very low.
Really ridiculously low.
Mm,
And so I wonder why I had 9 colds a year, for God's
yeah,
sake. But
yeah.
then, the problem is then, and this is a separate topic, but just in passing, in case anyone's picking up on this, I then went to a regular GP who prescribed me vitamins or vitamin D tablets, from the pharmacy. And
Mm.
the guy in the chemist came out and said to me, "Would you like the tutti frutti lemon flavor or the lemon?" And I'm thinking, well, I'm not 5. What do you mean? And I said, "Can I look at the ingredients?" And it had flavoring, aspartame,
Yeah.
artificial sweeteners, and only 200 IU of vitamin D. So I
Mm.
actually just said, you know what, leave it. I don't think they'd ever had anyone hand a prescription back. Came out, got my own proper vitamin D,
Yeah.
with 2000 IU, and got my levels back up, and the doctor kind of goes, "Oh, I've never seen a graph of recovery like that." No, of course you haven't.
On
You
200
haven't,
IU.
you know. So, but what that kind of story kind of shows is that, number one, there are certain things that even if we're people who say we have a good diet, you actually can't really eat enough
Mm.
of the foods that give you vitamin D, for example. So if you live where we live in this northern hemisphere with this goddamn grey skies a lot of the time, you're
Yeah.
actually just not going to get the vitamin D you need. And then if you get it wrong in terms of the supplements you take, you're not going to get better either. So
No.
that kind of it does the two things in one, really, the necessity for certain supplements and the fact that those supplements have got to be pure. They can't have a load of crap in them.
Yeah. And I think, you know, It's certainly with vitamin D, as you say, we're in the UK, so we don't get a lot of it. But I recently spoke to a colleague, and it surprised me. She's also a nutritional therapist, eats very well. She's not constantly covering herself. She doesn't use sun protection. She's fair-skinned, so should be absorbing properly. And she's out at her allotment a lot with her skin, very
Mm.
much on show in the midday sun. She had her levels checked, and I mean, officially by sort of the doctors, the GPs parameters, she was in the green. She was, I think, 51, but only by one.
Mm.
Um, but by functional medicine,
Yeah, optimum
nutritional
well-being standards.
therapist,
Yeah,
that's not ideal.
no,
And it shocked me because she's doing everything right. And I'm not somebody who gets my vitamin D levels checked just because I eat well, I get out in the sun in the midday, but it really alerted me to or reminded me that, it is a really good time now to check them because we've
supplement.
had the
Yeah,
summer, we're
yeah.
coming into winter, and what are our levels at now?
Mm, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It's an interesting one. And then, of course, the other piece about some of this is it's not only the nutrient or the supplement, it's how we absorb it, isn't it? That's a really key piece that most of us don't understand enough about. And I know we're going to talk about B12
mm,
and sort of B vitamins generally. I'd like to talk about, but that's one thing that we hear about is the fact that we're not actually absorbing what we think we're going to be getting from the supplement.
yeah, exactly. And it's taking it in the right form. So, and with cofactors or with something else that helps you absorb it in the right way. So the D, for example, you want to be getting D3
Yeah,
rather than
exactly.
D2. But you also want to have the
K2.
vitamin K2 with
Yeah,
it to
yeah,
help you absorb and absorb the calcium into your bones. That's really important. Otherwise, it's getting dumped in your soft tissue, i.e., your arteries,
yeah,
which can cause all sorts of problems, of course.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That-
On those, let's talk B vitamins for a moment because it's something that when people quit alcohol, is one of the things that sort of comes up in conversations. Well, okay, you really do need B vitamins. Now, just talk me through the sort of B vitamin profile generally, and then why B12 particularly is implicated for people who've quit are quitting the booze.
yeah, all the B vitamins are obviously incredibly important. And it's key to having those in balance. You can get a lot of B9 through your food. B6 you'll be getting as well. And so, we find that a lot of those can come through food if we're eating a good balanced diet.
Yeah,
Um, Vitamin B12 is a tricky one because even if we're eating meat, we tend, if we have gut problems, if we're past, 50 as we start to age, if we're stressed, certainly if damage has been caused from drinking alcohol, that'll damage the gut lining, the cells that help you absorb the vitamin B12. Um, then even when we're eating red meat, we're not getting enough B12. And
mm,
this one in particular is important because if we don't have enough, we can get irreversible neurological damage. So it's very important to catch that one.
yeah,
Uh, and a lot of people assume they have good levels, but we recently did a YouGov poll, which showed that 1 in 3 Brits are likely at risk of a B12 deficiency, and they don't know it.
right. Well, I
Uh,
suppose I suppose you know if someone is vegan, they may sort of suspect that they might be deficient.
exactly.
But
So they
otherwise,
probably would be taking, or you would hope that they would be taking a supplement if they're on a vegan or even a vegetarian diet.
yeah, but otherwise you wouldn't necessarily think you were. But also then, isn't the issue that if you did just start taking your the B12, well certainly you've got a B12 that is a liquid B12, so it's it's bioavailable. But
Yeah.
isn't the danger there if you take that but you're not taking other B vitamins, that there's an issue with how everything, the synergy of it all.
There is a lot, of course, there's synergy with all of the B vitamins, but often you can get a lot through food.
Right.
I think that B9, so your folate, is probably one of the most key ones to look out for people who don't do well with methylated vitamins. Some people, this is quite rare, but occasionally you have somebody who takes a methylated vitamin and feels initially they feel good and then they feel dreadful. They need
Just
to.
explain to us what you mean by a methylated vitamin.
So when we put a cobalamin, a B12 into the body, it has to be converted into the active form. And the body does this by adding a methyl group. Now, a good 50% of the population have variations on these gene pathways
Hmm.
called the MTHFR gene. And so what happens is they're not able to methylate as effectively.
Mm.
So they can't activate the cobalamin, the
They can't
B12.
sort of process it. They can't use it effectively. Mm.
Exactly.
Mm.
And so what's then helpful and needed is to put in an already methylated, so you're effectively putting in some methyl donors,
Yeah.
already methylated B12, so the methylcobalamin, and an already methylated folate. So that then effectively just donates those methyl groups so that your body doesn't have to do the conversion that it's struggling to do.
Mm.
And a lot of people have this variation, and it's not a problem if we know that we need to work with that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not a causing factor. It's more of a correlation. But people who have this gene variant often have a family history or personal history of ADHD, of depression, anxiety, of alcohol abuse, addictive behavior around drugs and alcohol.
Mm.
So it's an interesting one to look at. And it doesn't do any harm to put in methylated vitamins, even
Right.
don't have this
Right.
variant.
Right. So it shouldn't do you any harm if you're taking B12 after you've quit alcohol. Or I mean, there isn't really a test we can do, is there, that determines?
I mean, there's the B12 test will give you an idea of your serum levels.
Oh, will it? Okay. And is that a blood test then?
Yeah, you can
Ah, okay.
also do homocysteine levels
Right.
to check where they're at. Um, and it's a good indicator, but B12 is a very, very safe vitamin. So even without getting your levels checked, you're probably going to be okay. So if you're seeing symptoms such as tiredness, the fatigue, anxiety, there are many, many symptoms really that kind of can be cracks corner of your mouth, tingling in the fingers. Um, and if you're seeing symptoms like that, it's really not going to hurt you to take a B12.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What are the other kind of things that people tend to just sort of not focus on it because it's just not on their radar, like the vitamin D, like the B12. Is there anything else that you would say is kind of a no-brainer?
Magnesium.
Yeah, magnesium.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think we spoke about
everyone's
it
banging
last
on that.
time,
Yeah,
but
yeah. That I mean, it's a
100%.
game changer, isn't it?
It
Really.
really is. I'm personally someone who notices that if I don't take it for a week, because, it happens, doesn't it? We
Mm,
just forget to take
exactly.
our
We get busy.
supplements, we get
Yeah,
busy, we're out of our routine.
yeah,
I notice the difference on my sleep. I notice the difference on my anxiety levels.
yeah,
It makes such a difference. And it's so important
yeah,
for the nervous system. So for somebody coming off alcohol, yeah, great, the B12, because that will be lower from
yeah,
the damage caused to the gut. Obviously, also it's lowering the stomach acid and that impacts absorption. But yeah, the magnesium to calm that nervous system
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
and
totally.
help the sleep and anxiety that kind of comes from coming off that uh, alcohol,
Mm,
addiction.
mm. Yeah. I mean, sleep can be such a weird one in the early stages. Some people do sleep well straight away. Others, it takes absolutely ages before sleep
Mm,
regulates. It's worth it when you eventually get it, but it can take absolutely ages.
yeah,
I've known
especially if
clients.
the alcohol's been used as a crutch to get to sleep.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Yeah, that's exactly it. And you just have to kind of keep your eye on the prize that it's going to get better,
Mm,
really.
yeah,
Because even not sleeping tremendously well is better than the what you had going on before, effectively.
yeah,
What about vitamin C? Again, it's another one that I don't think I realized until fairly recently just how critical it really is. I used to kind of think, oh well, if I'm starting to get a cold, I'll shove a couple of vitamin C capsules down me.
mm,
But now I realize just how crucial it is, and the fact that we don't store it, do we? We can't sort of hang on to it.
yeah, exactly. It's water soluble, so we release it quite easily. It's easily damaged in cooking.
Yeah,
It's one of the first vitamins to degrade with time as
yeah,
the food's sitting on the shelf. So yeah, vitamin C is one of my personal go-tos on a day-to-day basis.
yeah. And I love your little sachets. I mean, they're fantastic. They
We don't do the sachets anymore,
Oh, do
but
you not? Oh, okay.
no,
But I was going to say I love
yeah.
your sachets, but I also love your the new
The new in the capsule. So
yeah,
I always bang on about liquids are
yeah,
best. And for a lot of things that's true, certainly for the B12, because
yeah,
you've got sublingual absorption, which so then if somebody doesn't release intrinsic factor, they've got gut damage, it doesn't matter because they can absorb it as effective as injections. Um, but for something like the liposomal, it's very hard to keep a liquid stable.
right,
So you start then adding lots of preservatives in, which, as I spoke earlier about, is not something that we want to do in our
right. Is that
supplement.
why you don't do the sachets anymore then?
Yeah, we just found it was basically becoming uh, impossible to keep it stable for long enough.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is
And so, yeah, we worked with the lab well, there was a very long R&D process working with a top British university to basically formulate a dried liposome. So
right.
when you put it in your body and it's digested, it actually then reactivates the liposome. And you
Right.
can also open the capsule and add it into water, and that'll reactivate the liposome.
Oh, right. Can you? What was the one you've got?
Yes, yeah. So if you prefer not to take capsules, that's definitely an option.
Mm,
But it's still the same effective lipo-C, but it's just in a capsule now.
yeah, that's great.
And it's actually a cleaner product because we
Yeah,
can't add anything else apart from a
yeah.
bit of fiber.
Sure, sure. I
Um,
remember years ago, I don't know how I got caught up in this, but I tried to make my own liposomal vitamin C,
mm,
using like an organic soy lecithin and all of that. Um, and but it needed vodka to preserve. So,
preserve
hold on
it.
a minute, I don't think I'll be doing that.
Uh,
How funny is that?
oh, yeah, yeah,
Walking
that's the thing, and a lot of people don't want the alcohol in their supplements, and
exactly, exactly.
so
Yeah,
yeah, but we've also got an organic whole food one, and the great thing about the whole food one is that you've got all of the bioflavonoids with it. You've got all the compounds that come with the vitamin C and help you absorb it.
right.
So I see a place for both personally. I take day to day, take the whole food one.
Yeah,
And then I'll add in a heavier dose of the liposomal one, in times where I'm maybe feeling a little bit of a sore throat, a bit run down. I'm around people that might be unwell,
yeah, sure,
just to give me
sure.
that extra boost.
Yeah, yeah. We need to talk hormonal stuff because I find it with just so many clients, certainly if they're women who quit alcohol and then things don't instantly sort of get better, then we have to just ask what's going on hormonally. And for so many of them, they've rocked up to a GP, they've told them there's mood swings and anxiety and poor sleep. They've been given HRT, sometimes the pill, bizarrely,
Mm,
sometimes both. or sometimes, depending on their age, sometimes HRT and antidepressants. So really quite a cocktail of stuff going
Yeah.
on there on top of a bottle of wine a night,
Yeah.
without being asked any questions. It's a shocking picture, really. But then, it's often these women will, they'll kind of wake up and recognize that the alcohol is absolutely not serving them. Alcohol and the menopause do not mix.
No.
So they'll remove the alcohol, but then they've still got the HRT and the antidepressants, one or the other. And quite honestly, if you could kind of have a conversation with your own body, it
Mm.
would probably be saying, "What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Give me a chance, you're right? Give me a
Yes.
chance."
In this
Um,
period of transition,
yes,
there's just too much
exactly.
going on, isn't
Too
there?
much going on.
Mm.
So I mean, obviously, it's too big a debate, and of course, I believe there is a place for both antidepressants and for HRT, but I absolutely don't think that it should just be signed off for everyone as you walk in the door, saying, "I've got some, mood swings and hot flushes." Well, yes, you're getting older,
Yeah.
and I genuinely believe that much of it can be managed by, well, quitting alcohol. I'd
Yeah.
say that's critical.
Key.
And changing your diet. It has such an impact, doesn't it?
Definitely. I think that, women don't realize how many choices they have, and it's just a lack of information. Interestingly, they've just removed the black box warning on HRT just this month.
Really? What was that then?
The warnings around breast cancer
They've
for,
removed it.
they've removed it. I think
Why?
they've
Because
kept
they
on
no longer
the
think it's an issue.
endometrial cancer warning.
Right.
These studies were done in the 90s. They were based on synthetic oral
Okay.
hormones. And they were also given to women beyond a greater period of 10 years after
Right.
menopause,
Right.
over 60. So I think there's more work now being done on giving it earlier, and also the bioidentical hormones.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Which
So
are much better.
yeah, exactly. Now, I believe that if somebody wants to manage it naturally, they absolutely can. And of course, people have varying degrees of symptoms.
Mm.
So there are options. And I think it's really important that women know that they can look into these various different options, the bioidentical hormones, um, and just have all the information to make the best choice for them individually.
Yeah.
But you can put in hormones, but if you haven't got the foundations right,
Yeah. Of the diet.
hormones won't work anyway. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
probably one of the first steps is actually testing where your hormones are at, doing something like a Dutch
Yeah.
test,
Yeah.
so you can actually see what you're working with. And then really getting the foundation, the basics right. So your blood sugar management, your sleep, your gut health, doing some gut healing, making sure that things are working well, you're having regular bowel movements, your detoxification pathway, supporting your liver. You need all of this in place before you start putting hormones in,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that they actually can work. And also, you might find that in balancing your blood sugar, in working on your gut and healing it, you might find a lot of these symptoms actually dissipate anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
That what you're then working with is to a much lesser degree. So
Yeah.
I really encourage women to work on those basics, to get the foundation right, and then look at the options of bioidentical hormones
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
wish.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone who is sort of, in those early stages of sleep feels really difficult and hormonally everything's all over the place. Are you a fan of, herbal stuff or uh, things like ashwagandha and those
Yeah,
kinds of things? Yeah.
definitely. Adaptogens have a place, maca, ashwagandha, black cohosh, they're great and powerful.
Mm.
They're not something to just do without thought. Herbs can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But adaptogens definitely have a place in hormone balancing, and I think ideally should be, as part of, and again, not that you just do that and don't think about the diet and don't think about the lifestyle changes, but get the gut healing done, get the blood sugar balance, eating protein with every meal and snack. It's so
Well, yeah, I
simple,
was going to
but
say the think when as you get older, thinking about some of the food things that you need to add in. There are sort of adaptogenic foods, aren't there? There are things that
yeah.
are meant to be really good for as you go into sort of menopausal years, things like edamame beans and those kind of products are meant to be those kind of foods are meant to be really good, aren't they?
With the mild estrogen mimic
Yeah, yeah,
effect. Yeah, so
yeah,
flaxseed, things like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But
talk
yeah,
to me
I
about
love adaptogens, just to say I think they can play a really nice part in just
yeah,
regulating those
because
hormones.
they won't do any harm, will they? I suppose that's the point, really, with them. They're very gentle.
Yeah, they're not going to do any harm, but I think it's key to remember that that's not all you want to be doing. You
Yeah.
want to be doing the diet and lifestyle alongside that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Um, on the foods, I've done so much around nutrition, and yet for myself, this is me fessing up completely. I'm absolutely rubbish at getting the protein in.
Mm,
Help me, please. What am I doing? What am I doing wrong? I find it really difficult to actually properly get the protein in. The reality is, for years I was vegetarian, literally years and years and years. And then I went to a Western A Price conference, actually.
mm. Maybe at the same one.
Probably. And thank God my husband came with me because he'd also been vegetarian for 30 years. Went
Right.
to this Western A Price conference and came out and
Didn't leave a vegetarian.
he went, no, the steak.
Yeah.
Um, the reality is I find that really difficult. I find eating meat really difficult. So
Mm.
therefore, I find getting protein, just getting enough protein. I just, it just kind of, I talk about it. I know the importance of it, and I find it really hard to make it happen properly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, Janie. I saw a hilarious, probably a reel or something that said, I felt more pressure in my 30s to eat protein than I did in my teenage years to take drugs. Because everybody's talking about it, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it is important because it's what stops our blood sugar spiking. So
Yes.
it is really important to have protein with every snack, every
Yeah.
meal.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be meat. It can be yogurt. It can be eggs.
Yeah.
Eggs are
I'm good. I'm good with
fantastic.
eggs. I'm good with eggs. Yeah. I can do
Yeah,
that.
and of course, it can also be lentils and chickpeas if they agree with you.
True.
Um, so yeah, I think it's in the preparation really.
Mm.
It's
It's
just
interesting that
making
you say even with every snack. So we come back to that thing of if you're having an apple, have some almonds with it as well, right? Or if you're having some dark chocolate, have a nut.
yeah, exactly. Just have something that tempers that blood sugar
Yeah,
spike
yeah,
so
yeah.
that
That's
you
a good
don't
tip.
crash.
Yeah,
And obviously, eating protein is great, but also intermittent fasting can really help with the blood sugar balancing.
yeah,
And so that can be helpful for some women.
yeah.
I
Absolutely.
think the key is not making the window too long for women
Mm,
in terms of hormones.
mm. Yeah, I find that hard too.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is fantastic to talk about how great it is. But you actually got to do it, haven't you? And,
Yeah, you
with
do.
nutrition generally, I think it's, I'm sure you'd agree that if you're starting out on all of this and you know you've got some changes to make rather like when you're quitting alcohol actually you can't focus on what you're missing out on. It's much better to kind of think, certainly in terms of food, it's not like how alcohol we can't stop eating, but instead of kind of thinking, oh my God, I can't have that and I can't have that, and that meal's no use anymore and I can't have that meal. It's more about what can you add in to start with, what can you just add to what you're having. So,
Definitely.
if I am having my crap fish cake, then what can I add to it to boost its health plate, as it were. I suppose
Definitely.
that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, just gradually forming better habits. And then I think the more good stuff you add in, the
Mhm.
less room there is.
Yes, exactly.
And it just becomes a more natural go-to for you. You
Yeah.
know, it's not going to happen overnight and it doesn't need to. But if we can just, implement a new habit, a new food each week,
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than this overnight complete drastic change, because we don't stick to it then.
No, exactly. Exactly. I love the
It's
whole
like,
idea of needing loads of variety as well, particularly for the gut microbiome. A naturopath sort of said to me, have at least 50 different foods every week. And so, if you have egg on toast for breakfast every morning, that's just two or maybe three if you count the butter. But if you then add in some avocado, that's four. And if you have some, I don't know, some herbs with it, that's five or six, so it's not
yeah,
actually that hard when you
no.
just take into account little things you can add in, but it's all about that diversity, isn't it?
Definitely. They say often nutritionists say eat the rainbow,
Yes, exactly.
having as many colors on your
Yeah.
plate.
Yeah, I love that.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's just being mindful of it because it's easy for us to go through the day and have eaten a load of beige food.
100%. I was at a business event last week, and I swear to God, I had 2 full days of literally only beige food, and I felt so sluggish and
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, it really affected me. I really noticed it. I mean,
And that's it, isn't it? It's listening to the body and
yeah,
really just kind of realizing how this food makes me feel. So it becomes that eating the foods that we might have previously seen as a treat, they don't become a treat
no,
anymore. It's not a
exactly.
treat to feel rubbish,
No,
to
absolutely.
not be able to enjoy my weekend, in the same way as alcohol,
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, yeah, it's fine. The body can cope with it. Of course it can now and again.
Yeah,
It's not going to do you really any harm to have it an event for a day or a week on holiday where you just
yeah,
doesn't matter. But I think, yeah, going back to the 80/20, if you
yeah,
can just get 80% of the time that you're eating well, eating
yeah,
whole foods, preparing most of your food. There's the saying, isn't there? If your great grandmother wouldn't recognize it as food,
yeah.
wouldn't have eaten it, then it's
Absolutely,
probably not
absolutely.
food.
That's so true. That's so true, isn't it? Yeah, and just to reiterate as well, on this topic, anyone who is literally in the early stages of quitting alcohol, there's never a more important time to really, really focus on that protein. I know I said I find it difficult, but I really insist that clients eat
Mm.
that protein. It's so important in those early weeks. Uh,
Incredibly important for the
with
blood
every
sugar, for the repair that's going on in the body. As you need those building blocks to
And
repair
also, if you are having proper, decent, nutrient-dense food, there's far less craving for the crap, isn't there? You can't
totally.
if you've had a proper nutritious meal, that's really satiating, there isn't really room for, 3 bags of Haribo's, is there?
Exactly. The body often craves these things once more because the food's lacking in nutrients, and it's the
Exactly.
vitamins and the nutrients that the body wants, and so
Yeah.
therefore keeps, there's this hunger that
That's
persists.
it. That's it,
Whereas,
isn't it? We're sort
yeah, with
of
nutrient dense food.
exactly. We're nutrient poor in many cases. That's exactly it.
Mm.
So just tell us a little bit about the brand and just give us a bit of an overview of the products that you have.
So we've only got a range of 13 and more in the pipeline. But the reason for that is because this isn't just white labeling. I don't
No,
just go to a
exactly.
lab and say, give me whatever,
And I'll make a fortune out
multi
of it.
you've got,
Because
or
it does
yeah,
really annoy everybody how when we read these articles and it'll say, oh, this costs 1p to produce. So they're like, how dare you charge me 20 quid?
yeah, exactly. And it's all, I mean, the market now is is
Well,
booming.
it's totally overwhelming, isn't it? If you tell someone to get started on supplements and then they just go into a high street store, I mean, oh my God, they would literally be so confused and come out literally rattling. And yet the reality of it is they could be taking in a ton of fillers and, like in my case with the vitamin D, artificial sweeteners and not enough active ingredient to actually
Yeah.
help with their problem.
And then they say, oh, vitamins and minerals, they don't
That's the
work.
crap, yeah.
Supplements don't work. I didn't feel a difference. And it's like, well, you didn't feel a
So you,
difference
so
because
you
it
guys work
hardly has
really
any
hard
active.
on getting the pure ingredients and getting the right balance of the active ingredient that actually is going to make a difference.
Exactly. So a lot of our supplements will be considered to be quite high dose. The
Yeah,
B12, for example, is 3,000 micrograms,
yeah,
which is, on the higher side, but it's a safe vitamin, so that's a very safe dose for an adult.
yeah,
Um, But yeah, it's exactly that, getting the right form, getting it in its most bioavailable active form. The idea being that the body just has to do as little as possible, because I'm working on the basis that a lot of people have, the mutations on their gene pathways, that they have gut health problems and therefore absorption issues, that they're living with low-grade chronic stress. So all of these things impacting their absorption. I'm working on the basis of that. So if I can give you the most bioavailable active form,
yeah,
you're actually then going to feel it.
yeah.
And so yeah, no preservatives, no colorings, no flavorings. We sometimes get we sometimes get this review on our B12. So it's just a liquid, it's a red liquid.
Yeah, it's just like a
And
drop bottle, isn't it?
yeah, it just tastes like water really, and that's because it's two forms of vitamin B12, the methylcobalamin and the adenosylcobalamin, which incidentally is very key for energy because it's that form that supports the mitochondria, which is the little energy powerhouse of pretty much every cell in your body. So it's that that's going to give you the energy.
Mm.
But it's got the two forms of B12 and then just reverse osmosis water and nothing
Yeah,
else. And I think people are so used to tasting cherries and sweetness that we sometimes get the review that says just colored water.
there's nothing. Yeah,
Thankfully, we've got, nearly 3,000 positive reviews
yeah,
saying
yeah,
it's
yeah,
changed my life. I can't
yeah.
believe how much better I feel.
Brilliant.
But it does make us laugh because as if we get away with selling colored
No,
water.
exactly.
But
Like,
people are so used to tasting sugary,
great things. Exactly.
syrupy, cherry flavored supplements. And so
Yeah,
that's our goal, is just keep it as simple as possible, as pure as possible, and as effective as
yeah,
possible.
absolutely. Well, we love it. We'll put all the links in the notes, and thank you so much, Rachel. It's so great that you're so knowledgeable about this stuff, and it's really great when there's a brand who's putting this stuff out, but it comes from that place of really genuinely caring about what people are going to be taking.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah,
very
it really is
refreshing.
my passion.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love it.
very passionate about helping people to empower themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. We'll give all the links. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Janie.